Barbara, thank you very much for the extraordinarily kind words. I also want to recognize I missed him before, but one of the senior members of the House Democratic Caucus, Mr. Levin, is here. Sandy, thank you very, very much, as always, for your friendship and for your dedication to our country. Honored to be with you. Thank you for making the time for us tonight. It is a distinct honor for me to be able to get to introduce a member of Democratic House leadership in Mr. Steny Hoyer. Mr. Hoyer, I get asked sometimes, when did I first meet Steny? And the answer to that is, I have no idea. As far as I know, he's been around our dinner table for just like every other aunt and uncle. So he has been there for my family as a friend for year after year. He makes the time every year to come on up and support RFK Human Rights, the organization founded after my grandfather's passing. He has been a friend and a mentor to me, for which I am extraordinarily grateful. But I also have to recognize with a strong dose of humility that there are countless other members of Congress, Democrat and Republican, that can say the exact same thing about Steny Hoyer. He still views this profession, his profession, as an honorable one. And he has dedicated his life to making sure that the policies crafted in rooms and conference rooms like this, in these marble halls, reflect the challenges, the anxieties, the optimism of every single American. And he has done it with extraordinary grace, dedication, tenacity, and a pretty good dose of humor, too. Steny, thank you for making the time. Please, welcome Steny Hoyer.
I'm glad I came to hear that introduction. He stood there. His name was John. He was Bobby's brother. And he made an extraordinary difference in my life. He came to the University of Maryland. I was a sophomore. I had made a 1.7 and a 1.0 in my freshman year. Didn't really have my act together. And in the summer of 1959, John Kennedy drove up to Coalfield House, where he was to address the students for a student convocation. And he talked about young people getting involved in politics. And he said they could make a difference. I made a 3.8 that semester. And 7 years later, I was elected to the state Senate, having graduated from Georgetown Law School 5 months before that. When John Kennedy was shot on November 22nd, 1963, I and the nation sobbed, not cried, sobbed for 4 days. My life has been entwined ever since with the Kennedy family, either personally, because it was some years thereafter that I really became personally involved. Carrie is here, a very dear friend of mine. Kathleen, my governor. I worked very hard to make Kathleen governor of our state, and she would have been a wonderful governor. And in a few short days, I'm going to be honored to travel down to Florida to celebrate the 90th birthday of Bobby's wife, Ethel. I was a generation that was so inspired by John Kennedy. You're saying, yes, but this is about Bobby. Yes, it is. And I learned everything I could about John Kennedy. And you could not learn about John Kennedy without learning about Bobby Kennedy. Is Chris still here? I flew back from Phoenix this weekend, Monday, and I finished the last 125 pages of Chris's book. I had really not read it for the purpose of being here. But I got to know Bobby better, who announced for president. And I think Barbara Lee is right. Had fate allowed him to survive, he would have been the President of the United States. And what I got from Chris's book was a little more of the depth of Robert Kennedy, of the humanity of Robert Kennedy, of the idealism of Robert Kennedy, the deep and abiding intellectual integrity that he had and displayed every day of his life. And that is why we honor him, remembering him, feeling sorry for ourselves that we didn't have him as our president. He would have made such a difference because he brought such moral commitment to that job. And like all of us, he grew. We all grow. We all become more knowledgeable. We all become more sensitive. And he did that, which is the mark, of course, of a wise human being. And in Chris's book, I felt more the love and the depth of caring for average working people facing challenges every day. For the farm workers in California. Carrie, he'd be so proud of you for keeping that torch high and alive and bright for so many people here and around the world. An extraordinary family composed of extraordinary individuals who have made our country better. John Kennedy said it much better than, frankly, it's been said recently. He said, this is a great country, but can be greater. And Robert Kennedy stood for the proposition that this is a good country, but it can be better. It can be more empathetic, sympathetic, caring, lifting up. I've probably already spoken too long, but I was watching television that night in June, as I'm sure so many of you were. And I cried again. I cried again for that which might have been, for all of us, and for our country, and indeed for the world at large. At his funeral, his brother said, "My brother need not be idealized or enlarged in death beyond that which he was in life, a good and decent man who saw wrong and tried to right it, who saw suffering and tried to heal it, who saw war and tried to stop it." We were blessed by Robert Kennedy's life and legacy. Thank you.